So here it is, the brand new Tesla Model Y Performance, the direct successor to our previous car. And together with this first driving impression, we'll find out what it can do on the road or at the charging station. And with that, hey, and welcome to this brand new video here with Jonas, and welcome to my very first driving impression of the Tesla Model Y Performance. Today, we're mixing things up and doing it a bit differently. I'm taking you straight from the delivery hall, so to speak. Right now, I'm in Munich Vaterstetten at the Tesla Hausdorff Delivery and Service Center, where I just picked up the Model Y. I thought to myself, hey, since I've been driving the old model Performance for quite some time now, why not create a video where I bring you along right from the beginning, share my first impressions of the car, highlight the main differences, and where we can explore and figure things out together in a laid-back, interactive, and enjoyable way. It's all about discovering the car with you. We're going to charge together in this video today, but everything else will actually come in the detailed everyday test. If you don't want to miss it, then you should go ahead and subscribe to the channel for free now. We're going to go in here together, we'll take the beta steering assistant, we'll set the speed I want with percentage. So I have that already in place, not for there to be a surprise later on the highway. And I'd also like to adjust the steering wheel a bit, so I'll just move it down slightly and pull it forward to get it in the perfect position. Works for me. I know it's a bit different, but how else am I supposed to bring you along directly if I don't take the time to adjust the seat right here as well, just like this? And here we go. First, heading out of the Tesla hall here and getting a genuine feel for the experience. Getting a feel for how this car is, how it's different. It now has an adaptive suspension. The steering is said to be improved. It's supposed to be a bit more progressive, and overall, it should just drive better. Very closely based on the Model 3 Performance, just now with a whole different level of refinement. Height, a vehicle size larger. Just once here, really quick. It just doesn't get old. This acceleration is absolutely brilliant every single time without fail. It now goes from 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds instead of the previous 3.7 seconds from 0 to 160. The American figures are another 0.2 seconds faster simply because the test cycles, since it's 60 miles per hour, are a bit shorter, and I've been showing you these camera angles the whole time to give you a clearer and more detailed view of the car's impressive speed and performance in action. This kind of square framing of the two views, so you can see on one hand what I'm seeing, what's happening in the car, but you also get my direct reaction to it. That was very important to me, and that was my approach here for this first video. It's going to be a shorter one, just a different kind of video, so feel free to write in the comments what you think about it. Usually it's much more high production here with a lot more effort and planning involved. That's coming up next, as I said, in the everyday test. And now, into the roundabout we go. I really like this small Tesla steering wheel. Now I have to be careful not to start gushing about it. But this direct driving feel for a car that's 4.80 meters long and almost 2 meters wide is something else. Yet it still feels like you're sitting in a small, lightweight and agile car. That's really impressive, and they consistently pull it off so well. And then, even here in the roundabout, I noticed they reintroduced the turn signal lever once more. So in the Model Y it was actually gone before, it only disappeared in the Model 3, and now it's back in the Model Y and also in the Model 3 again, and apparently it's supposed to be retrofittable, and maybe I've already gone ahead and ordered the retrofit kit for myself to install. Maybe there'll be a video on it, so it's definitely worth subscribing. Not just here for the Model Y, but also for some other topics around e-mobility, and of course around Tesla as well. And as I'm merging onto the highway here, a little note. I'm wearing a sweater today again from RetroShapes, my channel partner. We've been working together and launched some cool styles, including the sweater with a lightning bolt and the one featuring a battery symbol, but there's also a cap and a t-shirt, and they're all made with top-notch quality. It's well embroidered, and you can get 10% below the video. Now I'll drop here for a second. You might also need to make sure the top mirror is adjusted. Whoa! It's really, you wouldn't think it. This is that family car, this, yeah, slightly larger here, massive trunk space, and all those features. And then you switch here to Insanity, and it's absolutely insane how this thing just propels forward instantly. And that's already pretty intense. I'm definitely noticing a direct difference compared to the old one. Of course not, I didn't spend the entire last week sitting in an old Model Y to experience that again. It's completely based on my personal impression of the vehicle here. We'll also enter a navigation destination. I'll guide us to Augsburg right now. So incredibly fast now, it says we'll arrive with 58%. I'm hoping, if traffic cooperates, that we definitely won't arrive with 58%, but we'll find that out in just a moment. And I should probably go ahead and slightly adjust the left mirror as well. Down here, a bit more to the right, and for the right one, just make a slight adjustment towards the left side. And you can already tell it's been quite some time since I've been inside a Tesla, even in our own vehicle. And it's always a bit awkward having to manage so many functions directly on the display, especially while driving around town here. Having one or two buttons here and there would definitely make things a bit more practical and easier to handle in certain situations. So here, pressing to turn it off because it misrecognized the 80, but now it's correctly recognizing the 60, and then we can also slow down. So I'm really curious about this. Particle detection, assistance systems on the highway now. First impressions here, followed by a long-term real-world test trial. What does longer mean exactly? I've had the car 3 days now. That makes it a bit tricky to judge properly. I'm trying to test it as much as possible. I've cleared my entire schedule for today and tomorrow. It was all pretty spontaneous that we managed to get this here, and on Thursday, I'm already flying to the next event and have to return this early. But we're really doing an intensive test outside. We're trying out everything that's possible. With the Model Y, a few things have changed. For instance, the assistance systems can now be activated with just a single click here, and that's all there is to it. There's no longer the distinction between a single click and a double click. I think that's a bit unfortunate because it also means that when I signal now to move over to the left lane here, so if the lane clears here now, signal once and move over, the entire assist system just completely shuts itself off on you right at that very specific moment. And that's a total mystery to me. I mean, I really don't understand how someone can decide that just because I change lanes, all the assistance systems are taken away from me here. It's just a complete and total mystery to me. It used to be so much better because back then I had the option that whenever I activated the double click, the assisted function, including lane guidance, was automatically included with it. And when I switched lanes, at least the adaptive cruise control stayed active. They simply removed it now. I find that really cheeky because it almost forces you to opt for the higher assistance package, which we have installed in our Model 3, where you then have an assisted lane change. But I don't always want that. For one, the assisted lane changes are usually relatively slow, and secondly, I can still change lanes myself, but want to maintain the speed while doing so. And I really don't understand how they could remove that. I hope it gets adjusted at some point. Speaking of adjusting, if I lower the speed a bit here, that's something I learned thanks to you guys. I can press and hold here, and then it automatically adopts the current speed along with the percentage value that was set previously. So if I said, for example, hey, now plus 7%, then it automatically takes 107 kilometers per hour. It doesn't have to be that way now, I'll just go back down again. But I find it quite interesting because before, that used to happen just by simple tapping. It's something they eventually moved away from because you had the option to disable that speed warning, and now it's essentially done through this long press. Here's a suggestion from me: why not do it the other way around? Because I only press once at the start of the trip and hold it down to deactivate the speed warning. But I'm frequently in this situation. See if you notice it. Up ahead it changes to 120, the sign recognition picks it up, and I'm forced to hold it down longer here. So now it takes the 128 as the reference value, so I'm adjusting back down to 120, and that's essentially how the function works. But why not always type quickly for the speed and just once slowly to deactivate the feature? From me, feel free to drop a comment if you're on the same page or share a similar view. And one thing I noticed right away, the car is significantly quieter. Especially here on the highway, you can really feel that it's much calmer, more composed and refined compared to the last version. And of course, the Model Y itself has already become quieter, even the non-performance variants. But especially compared to the performance because it has a firmer suspension, because more came through even earlier, you can feel it well in here. Only the wind, it always breaks at the edge down there. From the hood, it's definitely something you can hear quite clearly here. And now, let's go ahead and check out the dynamic settings. And there you can choose between standard and reduced for braking, specifically when it comes to recuperation. On the other hand, it also depends on whether I want to drive in sport mode or standard mode. If I now switch to standard, which by the way is automatically used by the autopilot. Very practical if you want to drive more comfortably. It's really a good feature and makes the ride much smoother. A good ride. How's the range? Especially on the highway, I'm someone who prefers sportier settings because I want to feel the road, since I often drive faster on the highway too. Now let's switch to sport. Here comes a bump. You can feel it slightly. These are frequency selective dampers. That means you can adjust the compression and rebound stages. But right now, it's not a massive difference. Again, standard, how fast does it adjust? You can feel it, but it's not groundbreaking. Let's see how it looks later at higher speeds. Now we're getting to that. 120 and lifted. He didn't notice the lifted sign. Still, you guys noticed it, and we're stepping on it. It's pretty wild, honestly. Thankfully, the road here is dry now, so it's all good to go. That's really good. It rained earlier this morning, and now we're accelerating together a bit and seeing how it goes. what the new Model Y Performance can do. It's showing 250 kilometers per hour, 230, 240, 46, 50, and it just keeps pulling absolutely insane. No stopping at all. It's totally relentless and unstoppable. 255 kilometers per hour, and it handles incredibly smoothly. And then the question, how do the brakes perform under pressure? And here it comes again. Not now. I'm curious, because this is a topic I've always thought about with our Model Y myself. It does have bigger brakes than the regular Model Y models, but the performance version still manages to... Nah, not now. We'll figure that out in the everyday test, because just now there was that slight jolt where I've always had my issues, since it never gives a secure feeling. I never experienced it braking too slowly, or causing any kind of noticeable issues in that sense, or that it was cold at the beginning, or that the brake would eventually become strangely deformed over time. But I always had that strange braking noise, and we're encountering it once more with the Model 3, and that doesn't give you the safest feeling. I did hear it briefly here, but then not anymore during the second braking, and that's why we're now going back into dynamic to check. We're in sport, and it's bouncing slightly. If we switch to standard, it smooths things out more noticeably. You can really feel the difference. It smooths out the ride more and also adds a bit more bounce to it. Crazy. So at higher speeds, it's much more noticeable, and the steering wheel is noticeably calmer than it used to be. And for an initial impression, it's really quite impressive overall. Yeah, the car has about 350 kilometers on it. I think I'm, after Chris, the second person who got to test this car here in Munich. That's why it's such a short period, because Tesla didn't hold any press events in Germany, but instead just releases the cars briefly, so you essentially have your own little press event. But it definitely leaves a solid impression overall. Even when I activate the autopilot once more here, the steering wheel shakes significantly less than it used to. It's pulling straight, and that's really reasonable. So, for a first impression, it's genuinely impressive, and I'm feeling quite pleased and genuinely satisfied about it. I'm genuinely pleased about it because you can really feel the difference. The car remains firm, but it manages to strike that balance by leaning slightly towards comfort. And I still remember back when we drove the first Model Ys, that was a deal breaker to say we wouldn't go for a regular one, but we'd take the performance instead to make it stiffer. Now, having that range in the car here, just like it is with the Model 3 Performance, I find it to be a really great feature. I'd almost wish for that in the standard models as well, but then just with a somewhat sportier tuning setup, that would be really cool and works really well and reliably. Unfortunately, I can't show you any music here in the car right now, but I wanted to briefly touch on the sound system because it actually sounds really decent, and that's why I'll just briefly play an old episode of our podcast, because we always had a sound at the beginning. Let's see. And I'm no longer allowed to drive on autopilot today, since I've just chosen a podcast episode to listen to. Mileage proof. Feel free to check out the mile munches below the video and take a listen to them. And I think, well, we talk every week, Tarek and I, about all topics of e-mobility, and I think the sound system in here is really good. It's hands down the absolute best you'll find in this price range. You just have to say it. And Tesla's assistance system is so overbearing, it's really incredibly annoying to deal with. I had both hands on the wheel, I was looking ahead or just looking to the right, and then he takes it away from me because he now assumes that I was too distracted by, just picking out a podcast quickly. So I find it really bad because there are so many situations, especially when the display is only in the middle, when you don't have buttons, where you just have to tap something quickly, and yes, it's also legally allowed, because you're allowed to operate the multimedia system. But here it's not acceptable, so I'll have to manage without using the autopilot until the next stop or break. And if I happen to make another mistake after that, or if the system just misidentifies me again, then there's a good chance I could end up getting completely blocked for several days in a row. Let's see if he recognizes it. On the left is the lifting sign. He still has the 70 and has taken it out completely. Very good. Now let's head onto country roads just to get a feel for what the acceleration can do. Once from 0 here, we accelerated together and just about reached 100, and that's still not even the full power. Just to note, as you can see above, there's only 7% left in the battery. I'm on my way to the charging station now. Thought we'd do a quick acceleration sprint here in the video as well. The rest, including measurements, is in the everyday driving part. I think I'm repeating myself. But I really wanted to try here once more how the car handles driving on those winding country roads. And what could possibly be more suitable for that than this winding road in a lightly forested and picturesque rural area? It's a bit slippery, a bit wet, that has to be mentioned, but what's really cool is that now in the dynamic settings, which I wanted to briefly touch on, you also have the option to adjust the traction control. That means I can choose here, is it slippery ground? Do I want the off-road assistant, which is more, let's say, for areas where you might also want the ESC to allow some slip, giving you better control in tricky conditions. Who knows if you might need it. And now here with the slippery ground, yeah, actually nothing gets through in automatic mode, but it still manages to perform just as effectively in these tricky conditions. So the rule that I'm still not sure if the track mode will ever come back at some point. I've heard that Tesla themselves mentioned they analyzed how many people actually use that track mode, and it seems the number must have been extremely low. And that's apparently why Tesla decided to stop offering it altogether, or rather to simply remove this feature from the system entirely. I'm really curious to see if it might come back someday, because some people found it quite cool to shift the power back and forth like that. For the moment it's not available. And here now, just quickly, the dynamic of it. We currently have sports mode active here and switched back to standard. Yeah, here's a sequence of curves, right turn and left turn. So in both standard and sport, pretty much the same sequence here. It's quite good and handles smoothly and steadily. Again, one more time. So I think I'd prefer sport, even now after all the highway kilometers I just had. It definitely adds to the fun factor again, but it'll have to prove itself over the next few hundred kilometers to see how it handles and whether you might need to allow a bit more or less effort here for the best overall driving experience, comfort and performance. But it really sits well there, even here if I take a little. Look at how it behaves on the road. It's really planted. That's already good. And that again in standard, yes, it does sway a bit more but still feels quite stable. It's subtle, not a huge difference. When the brakes are reduced, it rolls out a bit more smoothly, or it stays pretty much the same as it was before. You do notice it slightly. I wouldn't have necessarily needed the function or the distinction. Before we unmistakably arrive at the store, just a quick heads up to let you know that the winter season is currently in full swing once more this year, folks. That means soon even this one here will have to part with its nice rims and make the switch over to winter wheels. And for you, a quick tip. Check out EV Supply below the video, but make sure to visit Tessie Supply here for Teslas. Because they have complete winter wheel sets in a really attractive offer. You can get a complete wheel set starting at just under 1,800 euros. And that's significantly cheaper than, for example, Tesla, where you end up paying over 4,000 euros. That's why it's worth stopping by below the video. Additionally, you'll get 10% off the entire Tessie Supply and EV Supply shop there. That's where you can pick up things like the rubber mats for the interior, which are perfect for this time of year, or items such as the sexy knob, that additional control unit to finally bring a few buttons into the car. For example, we also have a storage bag specifically designed for the lower rear trunk area. Lots of accessories available. Below the video, I'll drop the link and code for you. And with that, you save 10% on the entire shop. Now let's really get to the store, and Tesla has promised quite a bit here. For one, the battery is larger, but you don't really find much info on it. There's this rumor going around that it's supposed to be just over 80 kilowatt hours usable. The predecessor had 78, but there are no technical details about it. We'll check in a moment how much we've charged from 3 to 80%, or rather from 15 to 80%. Why? I was just at the charging station here when suddenly the car displayed charging power limited due to the station. Not ideal. I quickly reparked, unplugged and reconnected over 15%. I stopped the clock, waited and then restarted it. My goal is to reach from 10 to 80%. I arrived with 3% and it quickly ramped up the charging power to the stated maximum of 250 kilowatts. It maintains it for a while, but at around 15% or just under 20, it already starts dropping again. That means if you plug in at say 20%, you'll never actually get to see the 250 kilowatt charging power in the car. That's obviously complaining at a high level, but besides the larger battery, Tesla also promises that the charging performance and battery performance should have improved. And I'm really eager to test that out, which is why I'm putting out this early first video to provide you with information right away. It was just really important to me, and I thought, why not include it in this video then? Right now, we're at 56%, I can see it through the window, and we only have 87 kilowatts of charging power left. And that's not exactly promising, because up to this point, I can just take a quick glance at the stopwatch. Here we've already spent 17 minutes and 40 seconds. Actually quite okay. If we keep up the charging rate now, we would also be in an area of under 30 minutes. And that was my big hope for this car, that finally, even with Tesla and a large battery, you could end up under 30 minutes. Let's take a look at where we actually end up here after reaching 80%. Here we go, we've got the result and are back at 80% after a total charging time of 35 minutes. So that's where we stand now. And around 30 seconds in total. That's about 3.5 minutes longer compared to the non-performance versions of the vehicle. And with that, I would interpret that the performance specification, indicating that it can deliver more performance, the battery, is rather in the area of outputting performance than taking in performance. What do you think? Go ahead and write it in the comments. I'm really curious because for me it's actually more of a disappointment. I would have thought that it would at least come in under 30 minutes, or at least come close to 30 minutes. But he didn't manage that just now. I used the time at the charging station again to do a bit of research. And in different places you find varying information. Most of them state that you have around 84 kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity. I did the math earlier. After switching the charging station, I added 53 kilowatt hours from 15 to 80%. And if I extrapolate that, he should theoretically have just over 81 kilowatt hours net, at least the ones that you can then recharge. And that's also what you often read somewhere, maybe among all those who have actually tried charging it at some point, I'd guess. What's alarming though is the charging curve. Being below 100 kilowatts already at 50% and at the end only charging at 50 kilowatts, that just takes way too long. I really don't understand why Tesla isn't tackling the charging curve. I don't need 250 kilowatts at the start. For me, it could also maintain a 200 kilowatt plateau for longer, and even if the 250 kilowatt range from the start lasted a bit longer and was no longer seen even at just over 10%, now going up to at least 20%, it doesn't help you if up top, then the charging capacity is missing. What do you think? Share it in the comments. I'm really eager to hear your feedback. Perhaps I'll take the car to another charging station as well, where I can record the charging curve for you so you can get a visual look at it too. This is a bit tricky here. I'd have to write down every single second manually. I'm aiming to get the video finished for you as quickly as possible. That was my first impression for now. I have mixed feelings. I'm looking forward to the everyday test, and if you feel the same way, then feel free to subscribe here below for free to the channel. And up here you can see my static first impression if you want to see a bit more before the everyday test.